Hello, family. Angela Cage here with Cage Collaborations LLC. And today I want to talk to you all about dispelling some of the myths that have to do with self-care. As you know from several other videos, and especially the Mother's Day video, I believe in self-care. Self-care is so important. And there's so many myths out there that are related to self-care. And I just want to share some information to let you all know that self-care is very important. It's not about selfishness. It's not about self-indulgence. It's actually about self-preservation. And that's a quote that I found from Audre Lorde that actually talked about what self-care is and the actual true meaning of self-care. And that's actually dispelling the first myth about self-care. And I found some other myths on mymindoasis.com. And I just want to share this information with you all and then talk a little bit about the different types of self-care. So we'll jump right in to dispel some of the myths. And again, these are myths about self-care. So the first myth that I want to talk about is that self-care is a self-indulgence. And again, that relates back to the Audre Lorde quote that I had posted on the Cage Collaborations LLC social media pages. And again, Audre Lorde says that self-care is not about self-indulgence. It is actually about self-preservation. And My Mind Oasis says that meaningful self-care includes mindful changes in patterns of thought and behaviors that do not contribute to your well-being. So again, it's not about self-indulgence. It's actually about doing what will make you better in the long run, doing what adds or contributes to your well-being. The next myth that I want to talk about related to self-care is that self-care is selfish. So again, a lot of people may think that doing something for yourself, taking time for yourself is about putting off others and putting yourself first, and they consider that to be selfish. But again, I say it's needed for self-preservation. If you don't put yourself first, you really can't be of quality to someone else if you continue to do that over and over and over again and you never recharge your battery. So let's look here and see how we can dispel the myth that self-care is selfish. When you make time for yourself and get sufficient rest and exercise, you feel more energetic and will be able to do more for yourself as well as for those around you. So again, it's not selfish. And it's actually an act of caring for others by caring for yourself first. Because again, if you take the time to recharge your own battery, refill your own cup, to replenish your own self, then you can provide a better self when you show up for others around you. So let's dispel another myth about self-care. Self-care is a one-time experience. And I say no, it is not a one-time experience. And it actually needs to be a part of your routine. You need to make it a habit to put yourself first and make time for caring for yourself. So on mymindoasis.com, it says, looking after yourself is an ongoing practice in building resilience to face hardships and preventing burnout. And that is really key to really, when I say recharge your battery, you are refilling and restoring yourself so that you can show up for yourself and others in the midst of challenges. And if you're running on fumes, if you're depleted, if your cup just has a few drips in it, you don't have anything to withstand the challenges that come your way and to stand for those that you say you love. So again, it is important that you are putting yourself first and making time for self-care. And finally, the myth that I want to dispel that's on mymindoasis.com is that self-care is time consuming. And what the site says is self-care does not require you to take a huge chunk of time out of your busy day. And that's very true. You don't have to dedicate 3 hours, 4 hours, half the day to self-care, but you do need to set aside some dedicated time to determine what activities do you need to do for yourself that refill your cup, that replenish you, that recharge your battery, and get you in a position to face the challenges that come, to show up for the people that you say you love, and to show up for yourself and be able to deal with the battles that life has for us. So now that we've talked about some of those myths that are related to self-care, I want to talk about different types of self-care, because self-care does not look the same for everyone, and each person has to decide what is most important to them. What is it that they need? And you may not need the same things every day when it comes to self-care, but you do need to start getting in tune with yourself so that you can recognize, what do I need to do to replenish myself, to recharge myself? And what area is there lack that I need to restore? So I want to talk to you about the different types of self-care. So first we have mental self-care, and a few ways that you may want to address your mental self-care is to read a book, solve a puzzle, or engage in some type of self-compassion. And doing that really is gearing your mind, you're training your mind, you're exercising your brain. And that's really how you're pushing out everything else, focusing on things that you enjoy, things that can really replenish you in a mental capacity. Another type of self-care, which we all may be familiar with, is physical self-care. And those include things like getting enough sleep, exercising, or taking any prescribed medications or natural remedies that you may do as a part of your routine. But physical self-care is actually doing things necessary to take care of your physical body, because you want to be replenished not only in your mind, but you also want to be replenished in your body so that you can hit the ground running and do the things that you need to do for yourself and those around you. Another type of self-care is emotional self-care. And some ways that you can take time to take time out and address your emotional self-care is to socialize. So you may find quality time with a friend or family that is dedicated to really fulfilling that emotional need. You may write in a gratitude journal, and then that is also a positive, because on the days that you may not be feeling your best, you may be battling with some bouts of depression, you can actually pull out that gratitude journal and you can remind yourself of the things that you have been grateful for in days past. So I really highly recommend the gratitude journal. And another thing that you can do to take care of your emotional self is to engage in a therapy session. And again, I have said in the past that you need to find a licensed, qualified professional, somebody that you can trust, somebody that you relate to, that you can be open and honest with, to share the things that you're struggling with and the things that you need help with. But I am a proponent of therapy and counseling. It's not something to be afraid of. And I know a lot of times in our communities, it said what happens in this house stays in this house. And it's that type of mentality that has people suffering in silence. And you don't have to do that. And again, it's not about running out and telling the world all of your business. But again, that trusted professional is equipped with the tools to help you make changes, meaningful changes in your life. Another type of self-care is spiritual self-care. And some examples of replenishing yourself spiritually is meditating, attending a religious service. If you go to church, or if religion is important to you, then that's a way that you can reconnect spiritually and get your cup filled. You can also practice mindfulness sessions. And mindfulness is really just focusing your mind on the present, pushing out at all other thoughts, and just focusing on the present. And a lot of mindfulness is also used with breathing techniques. So you just spend time focusing on your breathing, feeling the breath, smelling the aromas around you, hearing the sounds around you. So you're really tuned in and mindfully focused, intentional about what's presently going on around you. There's some great websites that can actually take you through some tutorials on how to do mindfulness if you're interested. And also, mindfulness is something that I have used when my anxiety was ramped up. So I've been able to use mindfulness techniques to really reduce my anxiety. So I'm a proponent of that as well. And finally, there's social self care. And again, this is getting coffee with a friend, phoning your parents or a loved one to catch up, or meeting after work to hang out with some colleagues. And that also ties into the emotional self care example of socialization, where you actually are engaging with other people. So, again, it's up to you to decide what self care is going to look like for you. And again, it doesn't have to look like what my self care looks like for me. It doesn't have to look like what your sister, your brother, your mom, your best friend, what the things that they do to replenish and recharge their battery may not be the same thing. We're all unique. None of us have the same fingerprint. So the blueprint that we use to get us to the point of self-care will not be the same. But the key is to check in with yourself, recognize the areas that need to be replenished, and figure out what works for you to refill your cup. And you can try several things. You might try something and it doesn't work. You might find like, this is not replenishing me. This is not getting me to the point of restoration. Well, that doesn't mean that you stop self-care. It just means that you find what does work for you. So try a bunch of different things. And when you find something, go ahead and write it down and make it a part of your routine, because you know that I want you all to win. And part of winning is taking care of yourself. So please take the time to engage in self-care. I love you all always. Make it a great day.